Welcome to the deep dive. We're all about, cutting through the noise to get to that high-value knowledge, and fast. Sometimes the best way, the most precise way to really get a handle on a complex system, something like enterprise messaging. It's not always just reading the manual, it's actually looking at how the knowledge about it is tested. So today our mission is basically to decode the core ideas behind Avaya messaging. We're doing this specifically by looking through the lens of the Avaya 71801T exam. That's the one focused squarely on support. Think of this deep dive as your shortcut to grasping the essential architecture, the key components, and yeah, the crucial troubleshooting wisdom you need for Avaya Technical Associate support. What are we working with today? Our source material is a set of practice questions, but also they're really detailed explanations. And honestly, this kind of source, it's a goldmine. Really good for distilling those fundamental practical insights that, often get missed. So by the end of our chat today, you're going to walk away with a pretty solid grasp of the critical bits of Avaya messaging.
Things like license management, those often overlooked installation prerequisites, how high availability actually keeps data consistent, the key protocols that let it talk to other systems, and yeah, those common troubleshooting steps. This isn't just exam prep, right? It's about giving you practical, usable knowledge for actual real-world support situations. All right, let's kick things off. Before we really jump into the Avaya messaging architecture itself, maybe let's just quickly understand the framework here. The Avaya 71801T exam, what kind of knowledge, what kind of expertise is it really trying to validate?
Right. So this exam, it's for the ASTA 7180 Technical Associate Support Certification. You're looking at 61 questions, and you've got 90 minutes. To pass, you need at least 41 correct answers, which is roughly 67%. It's web-based, and this is important. Once you start it, you have to finish it. There's no pausing, no going back later.
Okay, no pausing. That's intense.
Exactly. And what that format tells you, professionally speaking, is that it demands more than just knowing the stuff. It requires almost like instinctive recall. It signals that Avaya expects their associate support folks to have immediate, confident access to the core concepts. You can't really afford to hesitate or, look things up. You need to know it cold.
Makes total sense. No time for digging around when you're on the support line or, well, in the exam. So, okay, let's pivot right into the system's core then. When we talk enterprise messaging, managing licenses is always critical. So in Avaya messaging, which specific component handles that? Is it the designated gatekeeper? And maybe what are some implications if it's not managed right, things people might not immediately think of?
Yeah, that's the Web License Manager, WebLM for short. That's the designated piece. And what's really critical about WebLM, it isn't just, basic compliance checking. It directly impacts how the system scales and which features are even enabled. Something often missed is how resource allocation, think a number of call paths, voicemail ports, that sort of thing, is tightly governed by WebLM.
Ah, okay, so it's not just, is it licensed?
Exactly. If your license doesn't accurately reflect your actual usage or maybe your planned growth, you might start seeing these subtle service degradations, or perhaps specific features just won't activate, even if the system looks okay on the surface. So this makes checking WebLM really important for performance troubleshooting too, not just during the initial setup.
Right, performance troubleshooting. That's a key takeaway.
And another thing, remember, it talks over specific HTTPS ports. So things like firewall rules, blocking access, or maybe even DNS issues stopping the messaging server from reaching WebLM, that can block functionality even if both systems seem perfectly fine otherwise.
That's a really good point about those sneaky failures. You often look for the big red flags, but sometimes it's those quiet problems. Okay, shifting gears a bit. From managing the system day to day, let's go back to initial deployment. You've got WebLM sorted. What's a critical, absolutely non-negotiable prerequisite you have to verify before you even think about installing the consolidated server in Avaya messaging? What happens really if you miss this step?
The absolute essential prerequisite is meticulously checking that all the required Windows Server features and roles are already installed and running. And it's non-negotiable because missing certain Windows roles, maybe specific IC subcomponents like ASP.NET, ICP extensions, WebSockets, or even specific .NET framework versions, it doesn't just cause a general failure message.
It's probably something more confusing than that.
Oh, yeah. It can lead to these incredibly cryptic installation errors, or services that just silently refuse to start, or even intermittent application crashes later on that are super difficult to debug if you don't realize the foundation isn't right. A common trap is installing the right .NET version, but maybe failing to register it properly with IIS. That can cause web service failures without any obvious immediate error. It's really about saving yourself potentially days of digging through frustrating, obscure error logs.
Avoiding obscure error logs. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a good goal. Okay, so we talked about getting the system up, making sure it's licensed, configured correctly on the OS. But, in the real world, things break, systems fail. The real test of any enterprise platform like this is how it handles those unexpected outages, how it keeps things going. So when we think about Avaya Messaging's high availability to the HA setup and preventing critical data loss, which server plays that vital role? The one handling real-time data synchronization between the primary and secondary systems. And sort of how does that actually work to keep things resilient?
Right. In that high availability setup, the real workhorse is the content synchronization engine server. It's not just about keeping data consistent, though that's huge. It's really the core of Avaya's active standby HA model for messaging. Its main job is ensuring near real-time replication of basically everything important user data, voicemails, system configurations between the primary server and the secondary one.
Near real time.
Okay, yeah, and understanding its specific method, often it's file level or maybe block level synchronization that becomes key if you need to diagnose replication lag or maybe delays during a failover, which, can be absolutely critical in a disaster recovery situation. It's the component that works behind the scenes to make sure your data is there, even if one server goes offline, ideally without the end user even noticing.
That seamless failover, based on that real-time replication. Fundamental for business continuity, absolutely. Okay, now let's talk about integration. For seamless communication with let's say, the broader phone system, what's the typical protocol used when you integrate Avaya messaging with an Avaya PBX? And maybe, what are some key configuration points an admin really needs to watch out for, beyond just knowing it handles calls?
The standard protocol for that integration is SIP, Session Initiation Protocol. And yeah, while SIP definitely manages call setup control teardown for integrating Avaya messaging with an Avaya PDX, you really need to get the nuances of the SIP trunk configuration right.
Nuances like?
Well, things like making sure the realm and proxy settings are correct. The specific transport protocols you're using, is it TCP, UDP, or TLS for security? That matters. Also, the codec negotiation order. Getting these wrong is actually pretty common, and it can lead to really specific, frustrating problems like one-way audio on voicemails, or maybe the message waiting indicator doesn't light up correctly, or calls might just fail to even transfer to voicemail properly. And often you won't get a nice, clean SIP error code telling you exactly what's wrong.
The dreaded, it just doesn't work scenario.
Exactly. So SIP is the bridge, the language allowing these two complex systems to talk, but every single part of that configuration, every phrase in that language needs to be spot on.
Spot on, got it. And, well, as every tech pro knows, even with perfect design and setup, things eventually go wrong. It happens. So let's say voicemail messages just aren't getting delivered to users. What's a common, maybe fundamental troubleshooting step you should take first? And are there any less obvious network-related gotchas that might trip someone up?
Yeah, a really common and honestly often surprisingly effective first step when voicemails aren't being delivered. It sounds basic, but just check the network connectivity between the servers involved. Seriously, sometimes it's literally that simple. Someone unplugged a cable by accident. A firewall rule got changed silently overnight. Or maybe a slightly misconfigured subnet mask just in one routing table somewhere causes intermittent packet loss.
The basics strike again.
They often do. I remember a case, client spent hours, like 8 hours, troubleshooting. Turned out to be exactly that kind of basic network check scenario. Network problems can just fundamentally break message transfer and delivery. So it's a foundational check because even sophisticated apps like Avaya Messaging, they utterly rely on stable, basic network communication. If that's not there, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And go beyond just a simple ping, Dig into the specific ports Avaya Messaging needs open and watch out for things like SIP, ALGs, application layer gateways on firewalls. Those things can sometimes mangle SIP signaling in unexpected ways.
Good tip on the SCP ALG. Those could be tricky. Okay, so wrapping this up, now you have it.
Lots to think about there. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep digging.